3. Alright, welcome back. This is part 2. And everybody want to introduce themselves again?
Yeah, hey, it's me, the donkey.
Alright.
And then you got,
Let them introduce themselves.
And
I'm Jeff from Southwest Virginia.
I'm Dave in northern Missouri.
Alright. I'm, Grim, and I'm from Northeast Arkansas. Alright.
Ozark
Huh?
country.
Up in the, a little further from it, but yeah. Okay. Everybody ready? Alright.
Ready to go?
Now, we ended off with Dave's little story. But it's not the only story we have here tonight. Jeff, you have one, am I correct?
Oh yeah,
You want to tell it?
sure. It would have been my very first encounter. It happened in 1982 in the spring. Right up above my house where I was born and raised. Parents still live there. A friend of mine and I decided we was going to start hunting turkeys. It was on National Forest. So we went up and started working on making a little blind out of old dead trees. We went on with it for a few weeks and just about had it finished. And my dad, had never really paid much attention to what we were doing. Then he asked me one day, what I was doing, where I was going to all the time after school. And I told him, we was making a turkey blind up here on the ridge. And he, asked me where. I told him, and, he said, you need to stay out of there. And I said, why? I was 12 years old at the time, He said, just trust me, you need to stay out of there. I said, why? I said, are you telling me I can't go? And he said, no, I'm not telling you that you can't go. I'm just telling you don't need to be in there. And he said, he said, if you keep going, he said, you're going to find out the hard way. And he said, it's going to be a life-changing experience. He said, just take my advice and don't go. And I said, well, we're almost done. I said, I'm going to go try to finish this thing up. He said, all right, he said, I told you, find out the hard way. Like I said, back then it was 1982. There was no black bears around here then. You had to go to the Smoky Mountains, down Pigeon Forge, around Dollywood, Gatlinburg area to see a black bear. So I went up there and was trying to get finished up, and everything was just nice and peaceful, going along really good. Then I heard a really loud tree break. With the twig snap, it was a tree being broken or a limb being pulled off the tree. I mean, it was just a really loud pop. And I, looked around and didn't see nothing. And all I had with me was an axe and a single shot 410 shotgun. I was using slugs in it. I thought, it was the boy that was supposed to be up there helping me, but he was at home sick with pneumonia. And I thought, well, maybe it's Dad. He's screwing with me. So I kind of called out and I said, hey, if you're up here messing around, I said, if you don't quit, I'm going to send lead down your ass. I said, I ain't playing no games with you. Dad knew if I told you I was going to send lead, I was going to send lead. I stood there a few minutes with the gun in my hand, and then I could hear really heavy footsteps. And it was bipedal. It was sounded like somebody walking, but it was real heavy, kind of cautious, but sort of loud and aggressive, I would say. And it kept getting closer. There was a laurel thicket in front of me, is where it was coming from. And they were, I would say, somewhere between 8 and 10 feet tall. And then all of a sudden, I could see the laurels spreading apart at the top. And I could hear this noise coming a lot faster. So I didn't know what the hell it was. So I took off. And I got down off the bank into a little small stream, and I stumbled, and I looked behind me coming down off the bank. All I could see was legs, straight down, standing straight up, It was a kind of a dark brown type color, maybe a little bit of gray to it, but I couldn't see from the head up because I just seen something on two legs behind me, close proximity, and I wasn't even thinking about Bigfoot then. I had no clue what the hell was behind me. I didn't know. So I turned and cocked the hammer on that shotgun and fired a round back. Well, then I heard this godforsaken scream. And I thought, oh shit, whatever I've done, I've hit whatever the hell this is. So I picked up speed and I hauled ass out of there, run all the way home. My dad was coming in from work. He worked at the Forest Service. And he seen me running down the road. So he met me at the truck and he's like, what'd you do? I told him what happened. And first off, he raised hell on me from shooting at something. I didn't know what the hell it was. He said, are you sure you hit it? And I said, if I didn't, I scared the hell out of it. But I said, it screamed like I hit it. I said, it was right after I shot. And he said, we're going back. And I said, oh, hell no, I ain't going back up there. He said, oh, yeah, you are. So we went back up there, and I took him to the spot, showed him where I was at when I pulled the trigger, and I found a leaf that had just a couple small drops of blood on it, about the size of a pinhead. And he said, we need to get out of here now. Let's go. So we got back out, we went back down to the truck, and he just stopped, and he looked at me, and he said, did I not tell you that you need to stay out of here? I said, yeah. He said, but you wouldn't listen. He said, now, you just stirred up shit. He said, you have any idea what the heck you just shot at and hit, probably, because there's blood there. I said, no. He said, it was a Bigfoot. He said, they've been here since the 40s. He said, you can go down there and talk to your mom, my grandmother. And he said, she could tell you a lot more about it. He said, that's why we don't go up there. So Dad had went out on a wildfire. Right after that, he went up to Idaho, and he got in with some Indians up there. It was Chief Joseph's great-grandson, his tribe. I think Dad said they were Nez Perce, but don't hold me to that. I'm not 100% sure. But Dad's just one of these type of people that he don't know a stranger, and he'll ask the most awkward questions. So he just come out and ask him about Bigfoot. Well, Chief Joseph's great-grandson asked him, he said, what are you? He said, one of these non-believing white boys? He said, no. He said, they're down around the house. They always have been. He said, I just don't know anything about them. And he said that their medicine man told him that they were protectors of the earth, that they've always been here. And he said they could appear to who they want, when they want. And other people, he said, you can have two people there, and he said one person can see it and the other person can't. And he said, if somebody ever kills one, he said, our medicine man said that death would come to your door within 7 years. And if you injured one, that serious illness would follow. Well, that fall, same year, I was on the school bus coming home. As soon as the school bus went around the road by this place, something hit me in the stomach, just like somebody knocked the air out of me. I felt really weird, weak, disoriented. So I went home, threw my books down on the table, went in there, took my clothes off, crawled into bed. Mom and Dad come in and, like, what are you doing in the bed? And I said, I don't know. I don't feel right. I said, something's not right. I don't know what it is. Well, about an hour or so after that, I started throwing up and diarrhea at the same time. Had my head in the trash can, sitting on the toilet. Done it all night long. Missed school. Dad come home. I forgot to tell you guys about this yesterday, but Dad always wore a white T-shirt when he worked at the Forest Service. He was on the logging crew. And I was outside hanging over the rail throwing my guts up. And he come in and I asked him, I said, when did you start wearing a red T-shirt? And he said, what'd you say? I said, when did you start wearing red T-shirts? And he said, I'm not wearing a red T-shirt. I said, well, it looks red in my eyes. He said, get in the truck and go to the hospital. When I got to the hospital, my temperature was 104.5. I was in the hospital for 2 weeks with a very severe case of pneumonia. The doctor told Dad if he hadn't come home, he said I'd have been dead in probably 10 minutes because my brain would have fried. And it happened right as the school bus passed that little turn where I went up the mountains. That exact spot.
Wow.
I don't know if it was connected, but, thinking back on what Chief Joseph's great-grandson told Dad about serious illness would follow, and I happened to go right by that spot, and I felt perfectly fine before that. I went to school, ate, had no problem till the school bus made that turn. Then that happened. So I'm kind of thinking it was some bad mojo sent back to me for wounding one.
What do you think, guys?
Well, it doesn't sound out of the realms of possibilities. I mean, the more you learn, the stranger stuff gets and sounds, but you can't rule it out.
Yeah, I have to agree with Dave. I mean, I've heard some native folklore that really goes along with what Jeff said, and and if you look at some accounts of people that have actually gone missing or things like that, usually it ends up an encounter with what you think is a black bear, and it turns out that it's not. Will go real south real quick as soon as you pop that shot off, and it's not necessarily the one that you're looking at that you have to worry about. It's the ones around that you don't see. So, I mean, I got to tell you, Jeff, I mean, that encounter, I mean, I can't speak for the rest of these guys, but I got to tell you that encounter right there just blew me out of the water, man. I mean, that's, I really believe you're extremely lucky you walked out, or I should say ran out of there that day.
Yeah, I mean, when it was pushing me out, I think that's what it was doing to start with, was it was pushing me out. I don't know why it happened that day, because I'd been up there. Like I said, we've been working on this thing for weeks with nothing. I mean, nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing. We had the turkeys baited in with dry Quaker oatmeal. They were tearing the place apart.
I think right there, I think that's what drew the Squatch to you. Dave might have something to go along with this. But I think the fact that you were moving the turkeys closer to where you were at might have drew them kind of to that area. But the one question that I want to ask, and then I'm going to let Dave totally have the floor, is during that time when you were setting up that blind, did you notice like any sign, maybe anything kind of out of the ordinary?
Not at 12 years old, I didn't. I mean, it was just a kind of a flat spot, really one of the only flat spots on that ridge besides the top of the ridge that was there. It had a lot of big white pines growing around it where the turkeys were roosting. And like I said, that laurel thicket, and there was, like I said, there was a stream. It never runs dry unless it's really severely in a drought like what we are right now. It don't have a lot. I wouldn't really call it a fast-moving stream. It's just more like a runoff that stays wet about all the time. But, at 12 years old, no. And I've tried thinking back on that now that I've done some research of my own and being back up in that area. It's like I was telling you last night, the place looks like it's aged 100 years compared to what it does when you walk in. I mean, it looks totally normal. I could take you in there and you'd be like, okay, I don't see nothing out of the ordinary. I'll say, okay, let's hang on a minute. Let's go over here to the right, and then you'll see what I'm talking about. And it's just like it's 100 years older than everything else around it.
Right.
I mean, it's eerie. I mean, you just, you go up there and there's no sound. I mean, you don't hear birds, you don't hear squirrels, nothing. I mean, it's just like all that's there is the forest. There's no sign of squat around it. But, you know, I was telling you about that, you know, when me and a friend of mine went back up there, and we found those tracks. And then his fiance saying, you know, she saw two come down off the bank and one threw a rock and hit the car. We were right on them. Like I said, that one, I think I think it was about 7-inch track. The first one that we found was, well, what I would call the juvenile. The track that we got on in that thicket was 15 inches. And then when we got to the top, and those two tracks, the 15-inch track met up with the 17-inch track. So I was kind of thinking juvenile was what run off one direction while mom and dad was standing up there on the top. And we found their tracks because they were so easy to follow. It was easy. It was like following horse tracks. I thought they made it abundantly obvious. Here's our tracks. So naturally, curiosity, we'll want to follow those, and the little one went wherever it wanted to go.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. But you know, I just, you know, I mean, I'm curious to know what Dave thinks about, you know, as far as you baiting the turkeys. If, you know, I mean, Dave, do you think that's a possibility that could have drew them right to that area?
Well, sure, and I mean, turkeys are probably on their menu too. So maybe that one that you ended up hitting was over there looking for food. I mean, you got to consider when they're awake and doing stuff, they don't have refrigerators or canned goods or stuff, so they really don't have a good way of preserving food. So, I mean, you get hungry, you got to go find something, and turkeys are probably pretty easy pickings for them. With, you know, using the infrasound and stuff, they could probably stun them. And the way they throw rocks, I'm sure they could knock them out of the roost with a rock.
Well, I mean, from where she said, she showed us when we walked out where she saw him, and it was, I would say, a good 50 to 75 yards away when that rock hit the car. She still got the rock. It put a ding on the side of that vehicle.
Yeah.
It was, I mean,
Oh,
it got her attention because she thought it was us, because when we come out, it was dusk dark. She thought it was us walking out. Then all of a sudden, bam! And she got out. She's like, "What the hell hit the car?" Because there's a big oak tree right there. She thought maybe, you know, an acorn had fell on top of the car. And she got out and found that dent, and she found that rock laying there. And she's like, "Something just threw a damn rock." And then like 10 minutes later, here we come,
yeah.
following their tracks. I mean, like I said, it was so easy. I mean, you know, it was like, here's one, you know, and we just kind of skirted off to the side of it and followed them. I mean, and they walked down within probably 100 yards from the road. I mean, just right out the wide ass open. But I mean, I had trees behind them, but I mean, they were clear. They were cleared up, you know, for her to see two figures. Like she thought it was us walking out, but
Yeah.
we were
Now,
about 10 minutes behind them.
do you know how to judge the size of them from their tracks?
I'm learning more about that.
All right. Now, I came up with a formula that is extremely accurate, male, female, all ages. And it's real simple. You measure the length of the footprint and you divide it by 2, and it'll give you the feet and height.
Nice.
Like, now, I came up with this from sightings where I had a point of reference to measure the height of the creature and a corresponding footprint to make a comparison. Because
So if I found that 17-inch track, that would roughly put that bigger one at 8.5 feet.
yeah.
Maybe bigger.
No. Now that'd be a very large female or possibly a young male. Because now the males here, the adults, they're a full 12 feet tall and they leave a 24-inch print.
Jesus Christ.
Dave's not kidding. I've seen a picture, and this is a big, big boy. Big boy.
Yeah, adult male.
Good Lord. That's huge.
Well, and the thing is, you got to consider that if a male adult is 12 feet tall, now when I met, when I first started interacting with the one we call Little Andy, I estimated his age to be as at 5 years old. And the way I came up with that was you figure like a human male is is close to 6 feet tall, just to keep things simple. And a 5 year old kid is like 3 feet tall, right?
Right.
Hmm.
So I just scaled it up. So I figured that little Andy was 6 feet tall. He must have been a 5 year old little kid. I mean, yeah, he built like Lou Ferrigno with hair, but he was just a little kid. I mean, he wasn't menacing at all or anything. And but when you have your very first up close encounter, I'll tell you what, your blood's going pretty good.
Yep.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Most
yeah.
definitely.
Mine was definitely something.
That's how I came up with that, and it seems like from my different sightings over the years that the one we call Little Andy, his footprint will grow an inch a year, and he grows about 6 inches a year, and that would work out right. So if you say you add 12 years of 6 inches of growth, you get an additional 6 feet, which would make him hit full maturity at age 17. And that sounds about right, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It does.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot of this stuff, you just you gotta play detective and use some common sense because the people out here, I mean, some of them they just come up with the craziest off the wall ideas with absolutely nothing to back it up. But you got to think what makes sense and kind of step back from it and to better analyze things, especially like with their behavior, why they do the things they do. I'm pretty good at figuring out what motivates them, and I've helped some people who've had where they were having problems, and because I was able to kind of do a little bit of an investigation from talking to them and figure out what caused the rift between them. And once you figure that out, you can figure out how to deal with the issue.
Mm.
But it definitely takes a little bit of just common sense thought, which a lot of people they don't have it anymore, and they just get running off on some wild tangent, and yeah, it's like what makes sense?
Yeah.
How can you? What is the most rational way to explain it?
Hold on. We're getting some feedback. We're getting some feedback here.
Now I hear a little static.
Yeah.
I think it's on Joe. Joe, you there?
I am here.
All right. That was you.
Okay,
You're getting
Now it's
feedback
clear.
off of me?
Yeah.
maybe
It's
you
clear
had
now.
your microphone or whatever too close to something else. I don't know.
Yeah. That's a possibility.
You know how
Is any
electronics are. This, that, and the other thing will affect them.
You're good, Joe. You're good now.
all right?
But as you were saying, Joe. Sorry for cutting you off.
No, I was just gonna see if that was better.
No, sorry, Dave. As with Dave, you were saying, Dave. Sorry for cutting you off. My
Well, I was
apologies.
pretty much done about saying how little Andy has grown, and like now he's around 10 feet tall and about 12 years old.
Hmm. So
But
you think all Sasquatch? Would that apply to all Sasquatch or just the ones in your area?
well, I'll say it definitely applies to the ones here, and I have not had opportunity to say go over by the East Coast where they got the browner looking ones, and I don't know if there could be some variance there. That might be. like there's different races of human. Well, I'm sure there's a distinct possibility that these Bigfoot type creatures have several races of their own. And who knows which of them are, like a totally separate race, or if there's some mixed breeding going on. We're only scratching the surface at best.
Yeah,
So a
you're
lot
right
of
on
this
that
is
one.
pure speculation. We just don't know. We just don't have enough evidence to really point one way or another. And I mean, some of them they look so human, others they look more gorilla like, and like the ones here they look more like a caveman. And the ones that I've seen up close, they really don't. the they got a real thick mop of hair on their head, and they cut their bangs, so you don't see their forehead to even tell if it's bare, because their bangs come down to their brow ridge. I mean,
So,
all you see for skin on them is like the nose and right around the eyes. And
Joe,
usually,
Yeah,
whatever you were doing, started it up again.
I'm sitting here, dude, not doing anything.
All right.
well, anyway, that's how the ones here are, and their skin is a dull gray. It isn't shiny black like a gorilla. Now, I saw a pretty convincing video on YouTube where it appeared that somebody hit one with a car, and you can see in the backup camera where it gets up and comes charging at the car. Now they're on blacktop, which is like I don't know if it's a real road or just a driveway, but you figure I took a piece of paper and I measured how wide the road was, and well, this Bigfoot in the video, I measured him, and then I tilted the paper to the side, and he was as wide as that strip of blacktop. So I figured that had to be 10 feet at least, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at 10 feet and running, I mean, he was running. And you can hear the woman say, "Go, go." And it came from like Colorado. But it also, if you really look at that clip, it looks like two that are about a head taller come out and help the one that got hit by a car get on his feet, and then he takes off running. And then once they put the car in forward gear, you don't see any footage of the backup camera.
Mm.
But I thought it, I thought that was pretty convincing. But now the ones in there, they didn't have any hair on their face, and they had a light colored face. Now I can't say if it was like a flesh tone like a human's, or if it was gray, but it was light colored, because with that quality of film, and it's off a backup camera, I'm not even sure if that part was in color or if it was black and white. But I just remember that the face was really light colored, and it didn't have any hair on it. But now the ones here, even the females, they've got hair on them, the same pretty much hair pattern like the Patterson Bigfoot, and they've got a nose like that. But their head doesn't seem to be pointed like that, but they've got such a thick mop of hair on their head, and they're really shaggy, unlike the Patterson one, that I don't know. They could have the somewhat pointed head, but the hair would hide that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you actually shave the head off, wouldn't it be kind of hard to tell? And you've seen them pictures that I've got.
No, yes.
Kind of hard to tell. Maybe with that little dark, really dark one in it. I mean, that thing's got such deep sunken eyes and that bald forehead, and that thing just looks creepy, don't it?
Yeah, the thing is, though, is that, so if you're saying, in your opinion, that there could be different, Joe, Joe,
I'm getting a lot of static
Ah,
feedback.
all right, we're getting feedback from you.
you were on mute, so it can't be from me.
Mm. Huh.
Well,
Mine's not moving.
Mine's not. I'm on headset, and
I got a
Yeah.
microphone stand with a microphone in it,
yeah.
so
But so what you're saying, in your opinion, and it's backed by facts, that there are different tribes in different areas that look different.
Well, I think so. I think there could definitely be several races of them. Because in one area, you've got the ones that are black and they got hair on their face. And then there's other areas where you got the reddish brown ones,
It's
like
sort of
on
like the
the East
Florida
Coast.
skunk ape.
And through the
Right.
South, then there's the skunk apes that people are only saying they see at 8 foot tall. Now, I'm not convinced they're seeing any adult males, because they're so reclusive. However, the deer in Florida are pretty darn small, so maybe the Bigfoot did that too. Now, I don't know about the mountain lions they got down there, how they compare size wise with other ones around the country.
Yeah.
But you kind of got to look at some of that. Now, if animals have dwarfed down, why would that be? Like, for example, there was a pygmy type elephant that they found fossils on Malta.
Well,
Well,
I'm gonna. Sorry, Dave. I'm
they
gonna.
figured that, with limited amount of food, they ended up shrinking.
Yeah.
But you get in
Well,
Florida in the swamps, food is abundant.
That's very true.
for
And
different things, though.
along with what Dave is saying, because Dave and I are in the same spot in the same state. I'm a little south of Dave, but the ones we got around here, their heads are. The only way to explain it, it's kind of like a pumpkin. It's like the size of them,
Yeah,
and they're very very shaggy. And I do believe that there's different types, and I think we've all heard that, different types. Like, for example, I've talked to a person that, has, described basically a 10-foot tall chimpanzee walking through the pasture.
Yeah.
So I believe that there are, in fact, different varieties, and I think that,
I think they vary a great deal in appearance.
Well, I'm gonna say this and then wrap this up. Not to cut y'all off or anything, but and I want your opinions on it. Um, could it be that as they evolved to that area, not just to the food source, but to that area?
Oh, so you're saying a certain, because like when you've got a major climate change, all the animals there, they've got a couple of choices. They can either adapt, migrate, or die,
Yeah.
pretty much. And so you're thinking that possibly, like, for example, the skunk ape, where it would be smaller, because there would be some advantage to that due to the environment that it's living in.
Exactly.
Well,
I think so because if you think about the deer, okay, look at the deer
right,
that's in Florida. There's a
they will.
species there called they're key deer. They're very small. I think, like they said, what the average adult weighs like 70 pounds.
Yeah, they're like
Now, if you
chimpanzee
shoot,
fawns.
yeah, yeah, if you shoot up to Canada, where there's all the big buck hunters and everybody goes up there for the big deer, and they're 300-pound whitetails on the hoof. I
Well,
think
those
the
mule
food
deer
source,
get awful big too.
yeah, I think the food sources in the area, I think, have a whole lot to do with the size of the deer too, or the size of the Bigfoot in that particular area.
But
I
now,
mean,
when you think about Florida and you think about swamps, well, you've got swamps from Texas and Louisiana all across the South there. Why wouldn't it be uniform all the way across then if that adaptation would be for the swamps?
yeah,
And
that's
why
that's
would it
true.
be unique to Florida and not across all the southern states which have that same basic habitat?
Well, I mean, that's just like this, because if you think about it, over the years, when they talk about evolving, there's another thing about it though. If you think about this, what if they evolved to live in an area, to live in a certain area. And we know Bigfoot migrate.
Mine don't seem to. They're
Well,
here.
not Joe.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. It's still not cutting out. That's weird. But to think about this, what if they evolved for one area, one part of the swamp, and the others evolved for another part of the swamp? Because some swamps have more food sources than other parts of the swamp if they don't migrate.
Yeah, but you would think the adaptations for one swamp area would carry to the next for the most part.
Well, it also could depend on what they eat for food source.
Well, they're going to get what's easy to get at the time. And then you've also, like, for example, with the various plants, you've got different plants that are bearing fruit of one kind or another, or nuts or whatever, at various times of the year. But you don't always have a whole lot of that in the swamp. So much
Yeah.
like you do where you get past the edge of the swamp, you might find some plum thickets, and you get where there's more civilized, you'll find fruit trees in people's yards, but you're not going to find like a bunch of wild berries and stuff growing in the swamp, I don't think.
So basically, what could be is that in the swamp, their food source would basically be probably fish,
Fish, crayfish,
alligator, crawdad, stuff like that.
alligator,
Mostly meat, right?
well, not
Proteins.
necessarily. There's a lot of fungus and stuff grows in the swamp too.
Yeah, but mostly
And so
mostly
wet.
fungus and fish.
Oh, I
And
don't think that it's just that. I think that there's plants that if we were to go out in the woods and say we ran out of our food supply, okay?
yeah,
There's plants that you can eat, and they know what those plants are. There's plants like Devil's Club, for instance, that if you were to get sick or something happened, you can use Devil's Club, and it's it's a healing agent.
yeah.
So I believe that they're very familiar with their environment and very aware of all the food sources around them.
What if it has to do with adapting to the swamp area that they're in? Because maybe they have wider feet and they're shorter because they won't weigh so much. Because a 7 foot tall or 8 foot tall thing walks in the swamp, they're gonna get, if they don't walk correctly, even humans, they're gonna get stuck in the mud.
Oh, not as strong as they are.
No, but you see what I'm saying. I mean, sometimes shorter. If you're shorter, you're gonna be a little bit more bulkier width wise.
Yeah, it's just like walking on a snowdrift.
Yeah, and maybe they
You're lighter
adapted.
weight, you don't sink as bad or break through. Where, yeah, the kid walks on it, and the old man comes along, and he's going through up to his waist and having a heck of a time. The kid just walks on the hard crust.
So you think,
I get what you're saying.
yeah.
But wouldn't you think that would transfer with other swamps as well?
Well, I mean, it all depends because I mean, if you think about it, when something evolves, they evolve like the winds of the forest. They see over trees. Okay, so they can hide better, right? What if these evolved to the area that they're in because there ain't many trees there? Because in the swamp, there's not a heck of a lot of trees to be hiding in.
Oh, yes, there is.
Yeah.
Well, not in every swamp. And it's mostly water.
Well, they get a lot of yeah, you get your tall grass, but there's spots where there's land and all those cypress trees and
Yeah. So maybe they evolved for that swamp specifically.
well, but that would have to take place over many, many thousands of years. And
I mean,
I now would you explain the large size for the rest of them to be like they were hunting buffaloes and had plenty of food. So since they had such good food, they got big, like the Kodiak bears on Kodiak Island do.
Yeah.
Are you thinking something like that? That
Yeah, the richer the food source, the bigger the population is going to be. The
Plus, I think the bigger
taller.
they will be too.
Yeah.
now, now I could see if they were more nomadic. Like for example, if they had the large buffalo herds like there used to be, I
Yeah.
could see following the herds to keep the food source going. But from what I've seen around here, they don't seem to go because apparently there's enough food here for them year round.
Yeah.
Different things. It's ideal habitat.
Well, with that said, guys, I'm gonna cut this. I had a great time talking with y'all. I really enjoyed it.
A pleasure as always.
I can't wait till next month
Absolutely.
when we can have at least one more of our members in the group. Hopefully, she can come. We can chit chat with her.
And I'm also the guest that was originally supposed to be with us tonight. I'm gonna try to get him back for next month because he had a really interesting encounter when he was coyote hunting.
Yeah, that'd be good. And I enjoyed it with Dave's. Always a pleasure, man. Always a pleasure to chat with you.
And Jeff, I can't thank you enough for kind of coming on spur of the moment. Especially giving as much notice as you were last night. I mean, I got to thank you very much.
Yeah, your story was
man,
amazing, man. It's for something that
Thank
happened
you.
37 years ago. I know because I was born in 82. I know it was 37. It was, you remembered it detail, and I don't know how many people can remember it that long.
That's something that I don't think I'll ever forget that.
Well, something traumatic, it gets imprinted on your memory. I mean, I remember when I was a baby, I wasn't even 2 yet, and I remember I laid down on one of the stairs, and when I went to get back up, I slipped and I went tumbling down the stairs. And right at the bottom, my sister caught me, and I remember I was bawling, and I remember the cat come by, and I grabbed its tail and stuck it in my mouth, and then I was crying even more, and I was just a little shit. But I remember that.
Well, with that
That was
said,
dramatic.
ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I will say, I'll give my call out. Good luck and good night,
Good night.
and God bless.